I think everybody was just clapping because I'm the last speaker. Just kidding. Actually, like, everybody was good. This is hard to be last. I wanted to be last because I needed a minute. I've had kind of a weird week. It's been a good one, though. It's been, like, very busy, but I'm running. Like, just running. So I asked him, please, man, go last. So thank you for letting me go last because I needed that mental break. But now I'm nervous because everybody was so good. So I don't know. Maybe I should have gone earlier. Anyway, my name is Princella Smith, and I want to talk about social entrepreneurship, as was said. One of my favorite quotes that, I'm not going to do a lot of walking. One of my favorite quotes is by Ralph Waldo Emerson, an author. He said this back in 1871 in a lecture. He said, if a man can write a better book, or preach a better sermon, or make a better mousetrap than his neighbor, even if he builds his house in the woods, the world will make a beaten path to his door. I like that because it speaks to our generation. I'm going to speak to our generation for a second. Why? Because I'm in this generation. So I want to talk about this generation. I like this quote. The world will make a beaten path to his door. I used to work for Newt Gingrich. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know him. He's the former Speaker of the House of the United States. He's kind of known. There are certain Speakers of the House that kind of make their imprint on American culture. I don't know how much you understand about American government, but this person is the leader of, we have a bicameral legislative house, okay? We have the Senate and the House. He is the leader of the House, okay? And the House of Representatives has 435 members that represent all of our 50 states, and it's about proportion to population. Okay, this guy was the head. He's third in line to be president of the United States. Should something happen to the president, then something happen to the vice president, he would be there. He made sure, he wanted everybody to know it too. This is, I love Newt, but I don't think one of the adjectives that people would use for Newt is just like humble. That's not like one that people use a lot. He is, however, brilliant. And he's known for his brilliance. He has a PhD. He's one of the few people that go to Congress that has a PhD. Most people do like law or masters or something. He has a PhD. He's brilliant and actually I think an on-paper genius. And if you kept up with the elections this year, he ran for president. And a lot of people thought, you know, here's President Obama and he's this really cerebral guy. He's really smart, you know. I'm a Republican, as you picked up maybe. So I don't really agree with a lot of what President Obama does, but I do respect that he thinks. I do respect that he went to Harvard. I respect that he's an Ivy Leaguer. I respect that he's a thinker. So one of the things that Newt Gingrich said, and he's known as like the brains of the Republican Party, is he said, you know, Republicans need to start knowing things. He said this to me personally. And you know, some people say something to you, like if it's your mom or like a friend, and it's that one thing that you kind of remember the rest of your life. Everybody in here, I can ask you to name a quote that somebody said to you one time, and you remember it. Like you're going to say, oh, I remember when my teacher told me to, you know, straighten up, and then from then on, I never slouched. Newt Gingrich said, Republicans need to start knowing things. And I've kind of flipped the quote to say, people need to start knowing things. We're in an age, my generation, okay, needs to start knowing things. We're in an age where talent is not enough. Being smart is not enough. You know why? Because all of us are born with some level of talent. Whether we know we have it or not, all of us are born with some level of talent. All of us are born with some level of smarts. But you got to start knowing things. Well, what is required to start knowing things? You need to read. You need to look up something, and then what happens, right? These neuron transmitters start working, and then some ideas start forming. Like the people back in the day, I love talking to old people. I love talking to my grandmother. I love talking to my grandpa, because old people back then used to have to think, right? That's how we've developed so many innovations that we have now. Think about this. Somebody at one point said, I'm going to create something, and it's going to be a button on the wall. And you're going to push this wall, and all of a sudden, a dark room is going to be light again. Now, can you imagine saying this back in the day? Can you imagine saying this before Edison? Can you imagine, like, people were going, are you kidding? No, we got to go buy the oil and put it in a lamp and light the fire and burn our fingers, and, you know. But somebody actually had to, like, Think about that. We have life so easily now, though. Right? My generation, talking to my generation, right? We have it so easily. We have this little thing in our hands that tell us what to do, tells us where to go. I'm guilty of this myself. I put my calendar in my phone. That's my life, my phone. That's what keeps me on track. So I think it's interesting that Newt Gingrich was speaking to a group of people that were my age, and he specifically said to me, we need to start knowing things. And you've got to develop a skill, right? A skill. In our culture, we value entrepreneurship, right? We look up to people who know how to make money. One of the people I know that helped me get here is Sheldon Adelson, really his wife Miriam Adelson. And I know that's a name that's known here. 14th richest man in the world, brilliant entrepreneur. Why is he respected? Not just so much because he's rich, right? Because he's kind of smart. You got to be smart to get to that level of money. You don't just trip and get that level of money. You don't just I got lucky and won. That is not a dumb man, okay? He is not a stupid man. He's smart. But there's a level of skill you have to have, right, to be an entrepreneur. You got to have some kind of level of skill. Why am I talking about this? Because we're all born with talent. We're all born with intelligence. Skill is something that comes from practice. Skill is something that comes from hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft, whatever it is. How does this relate to social entrepreneurship? Well, here's the definition. Social entrepreneurship, I'm going to read it right off the slide, means recognizing a social problem and applying an entrepreneurial model to create an organization where the ultimate goal is not solely generating profit, but also solving that social problem. Now, I'll break it down, because that was a lot of words. Basically, it means you're going to take the essence of capitalism, the essence of making a dollar, right? And saying, instead of just getting the bottom line, I'm going to use this and solve a world problem. Now, that sounds a little complicated, right? Because you got people like Mark Zuckerberg, who I got mad respect for. But people like him, or like a Steve Jobs, who I also had a lot of respect for, create things, right? And I think it's fair to say the world would still go by without Facebook. Now, we don't want to think about that. Oh my gosh, everybody's like, what is she talking about? Sit her down now. But the world, I'm like Facebook queen, so I love it, so I'm not putting it down. But the world would get by without Facebook. The world would get by without an iPhone, without Apple products, which I love. But we would get by without that, right? But think about the social ills that plague our world, issues like hunger, lack of health care. We can go on and on with this. Some people put the environment in there. I don't always know about that, but human trafficking, poverty. Think about those kinds of issues, and think about someone saying, okay, instead of a charity, instead of an NGO, instead of somebody handing out, asking for money all the time, I'm going to create a business that will solve it. So I can make a living off of this. I can make money off of this, but it's going to solve a problem. That's genius. You know what I thought about when I started really reading up on this? Is why didn't people talk about this during the 2008 and 2012 American elections? If you were keeping up with it, it was the 1% versus the 99, and we don't have. And people our age out there in your Doc Martens and your iPhones going, I don't have because you have and I don't. I think that's silly. I don't think because someone else has something, that's why I don't have something. If I want something, I'm going to go work to go get it. However, there are people in the world who really need some help and can't help themselves. You been to Africa? Take a look over there in sub-Saharan Africa. It'll make you cry. You'll bust out just crying. Seriously. If you have any edge of a heart. People born in Niger, Africa, for example, 15% of those babies die because they don't have the food. And the mother's breast milk is not nutritious enough to sustain that baby because she's not fed enough. So then what? So then our generation, come on. This is what I want to introduce you to. How about we start creating some companies that can solve an issue like global hunger, but you're still making money. You're still making money, you still got a job, but instead of just something that's just generating a bottom line, which I have nothing wrong with it, I'm a capitalist Republican, nothing wrong with it. But how about we take these issues that have been ailing our society and finally say, hey, let's just try this for a change. Everybody in here, okay, raise your hand if you know of any NGO or charity that's dedicated to solving hunger. Raise your hand, let me see. You can just think of an organization, right? Who knows of an organization that's supposed to, okay, our job is we're going to give healthcare to people, like we want to provide, right? Like everybody knows of an organization like that. And yet we still have 1 billion people die each year from hunger. A fourth of them are children. Why is this? This is unnecessary. So I think social entrepreneurs have the answer. I want to tell you what a social entrepreneur is. Number one, there are 4 things. And I didn't do this. There's an organization called Ashoka, which, actually, you guys know this, right? Then they go out and identify social entrepreneurs. So these are the 4 things I picked out of their documents that I like that define social entrepreneurs. Number 1, they are individuals with innovative solutions to society's most pressing problems. That's easy. Number 2, they are ambitious and persistent. They tackle major social issues by offering new ideas for wide-scale change. Have any of you tried to change something ever? It's not easy. So that's why the definition is ambitious and persistent. Newt Gingrich used to he introduced me to a phrase called polite persistence. It's like that edge right there between you're just annoying and you're just, wow, this person is really confident. You know, they should give that a chance. Then, man, you get on my nerves. There's like a line between it, and it's called polite persistence. Number 3, they're possessed by their ideas. They're committing their lives to changing the direction of their field. Possessed. How many of you play a sport? Right? I played basketball. IDC won a championship yesterday. Got that medal. I'm very sore. Anyway, you met an athlete. Usually that person is pretty possessed, right, with that sport. A possessed person, not to sound demonic. A person possessed with their idea. This person is possessed. Why? That is the difference, really, kind of, between somebody that just wants to make money and somebody that's like, yeah, I want to make money. That's good. I don't want to be broke, but I want to change this. Like, I want this to not happen anymore. I want no more babies in Africa being born and dying 15 days later. Like, I'm trying to stop this. Will Smith defines this the best to me. Will Smith said, if it's me and you on a treadmill, he said, let me tell you something. Everybody calls me talented. I don't think I'm that talented. I think I'm okay, but here's the difference. I will work harder than any person in this room. Me and you on a treadmill, one thing is going to happen. One of 2 things is going to happen. Either you're going to die, or I'm going to die on this treadmill, or you're getting off first. Either I'm going to die on this treadmill or you're getting off first. But I will not get off first. I will not stop. I will not lose. That is the mind of a social entrepreneur. I've met them. I love them. They want to change the world. It's not just about making money. And so you put that with the kind of type A personality of a person that starts their own business. That's crazy. All right, y'all can laugh. It's not that late. Number 4, they're both visionaries and ultimate realists. Now, because some of you might be sitting there going, Princella, like, that's really nice, but it is probably hard to get investors for a company that says they want to solve global hunger. Or they want to do something about climate change, or they want to provide health care. You're right. You're right. It is very hard, but they're very realistic. And so they're concerned with the practical implementation of their vision above all else. They come up with a great idea. I'm trying to encourage you here. Somebody write some notes or something. They're concerned with, okay, is this practical? Can we do this? And I like my sister over here who was talking about the farmers markets, because I'm doing a project similar. I want to talk to you about this. That's kind of what I mean. It's like, this is nice in theory, but she took something that she saw in Washington, D.C. She come to Arkansas. We have better farmers markets. That's where I'm from. But I like it. She took something and she said, okay, this is like I can practically implement this in Israel. And you can, because Israel leads the world in technological advancement in agriculture. So I thought that was very smart. But it's not, the point I want to make on that also is that there's not a successful person in the world that hasn't done something that is not intentional and deliberate. It's intentional and deliberate. Nobody just like, you just woke up one day and you were like Bill Gates. You just woke up and you were Oprah. No, nobody, no one. This is the main point I try to get across to my generation. Nobody just woke up, but we're spoiled. A lot of people in my generation are spoiled. We were born in the 80s, raised in the 90s, good economy, nothing was going on, nothing was happening really. And so we're a little spoiled. And so this is our chance. I see social entrepreneurship as our chance to kind of take that mantle back of the previous generations and all the great people and what they call the greatest generation, World War II generation, the things that they did before us. We have a chance to take this element. No one else has done it. It's new. It's new. Nobody else is really doing this. They're just starting to do this. We can take social entrepreneurship and own it. And not only can we make money, not only can we change the world, but we can actually help the international political economy. Think about it. Think about all the aid that America gives to other countries. Think about all the aid that Europe gives. Europe has given so much money. They are in debt. Like, there are fights going on in Europe right now about, like, do we need to really still keep giving free money cards to Kenya so they can just slide the food and get free food? That's sad, though, that has to be a debate of whether or not two of the world's superpowers can continue to help third world countries. We don't have to do this. This is something you can create on your own. I will close with this because I went a little longer than I wanted to. But yes, everyone wins. Everyone wins. This is an international thing. It's an international idea that you can do where everyone wins. And I want to close with this quote from the Talmud. And actually, before I close the quote for the Talmud, I'm going to give you one more example. Bill Clinton and George Bush. And this is why. No, this is why I want to give you the example. Because some of you probably were thinking, man, she sounds like a liberal one second, and she sounds like a conservative one second. That's awesome, right? Because this is an idea that everyone can agree upon. Bill Clinton and George W., the second Bush, got together and formed the Clinton-Bush Fund. You guys remember that big earthquake in Haiti that was January 2010, January 12, 2010? They got together and formed something that was leading into this trend of social entrepreneurship. They did raise money, but they took that money and taught people microfinance. They had Haitians rebuilding their own country instead of just somebody's pumping money, people just pumping rice and tearing up the local economy because the local farmers are trying to grow stuff. You just threw them off. They taught them how to rebuild. They paid them to build buildings, to create jobs and build some more factories. And one factory they did created 70,000 jobs. 70,000 just from you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. That's kind of what Clinton and Bush started. And I thank them for it because it's kind of rolled the ball. So I will close with this quote. It's from the Talmud. I really like it. And I'm Christian. But I like this. I like this quote. It says, one person's candle is a light for many. I love that quote from the Talmud. One person's candle is a light for many. All it really takes is one person. I told you, one person said, I'm going to push a button, and then some stuff's going to happen, and some lights are going to come on. And everybody laughed at that person for a very long time, and then it happened. One person's candle is a light for many. All it takes is one person to come up with a good idea for social entrepreneurship. All it really takes is one person to say, hey man, come do this with me. Let's go get a grant and start this and make this really happen. Come on, let's go get some investors. That's all it really takes is one person. Thank you very much for your time.